All right, we now have our next guest with us, and I know he's busy, and we all are as we come to the end of the year. But I wanted to talk to David Seymour from the ACT Party because I've been most interested and, as I said, deeply disappointed that Nelson College has joined, it seems, a well-coordinated group of schools or school boards who have got together and essentially mounted a political campaign against the incumbent government, which I think is full of falsehoods. David Seymour, thank you for joining us.
Hey, good morning, Sean.
Okay, has this government ever told schools to ignore the Treaty of Waitangi?
No, we haven't. We've removed the obligation on school boards to uphold the treaty, and we've removed the obligation to permeate their practices, curriculum and teaching with that purpose of upholding the treaty. But we have not forbidden them to do it. And one of the ironic things about this movement is that they think they're protesting against the government. They're actually advocating to do something that is allowed within the law change that we've made. Where I disagree with them is they seem to be opposed to freedom and choice. They seem to want compulsion because the law doesn't stop them doing what they want to do. They can just carry on as they please. The problem seems to be that we're offering others the choice, and that's what I get a little bit tired of.
Well, even my old school, Nelson College, said it's no time to going back. I didn't know that they had anything to go back from. Who's running this, David? We've got this lawyer, is it Tania Waikato? What organisations? And it's clearly the letters are all fundamentally the same. They're connected through to John Gerritsen, the education reporter at Radio New Zealand. It has all the hallmarks of a union campaign. Who is actually running it?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. That's up to the person who's doing it. And frankly, I'd rather play the issues than the person. The changes that the government...
But hang on. I just want to stop you there, Minister. Surely one of the issues here is that it is a coordinated anti-government campaign, not a spontaneous reaction of school boards. This is the politicisation of our schools, and that is an issue.
You're probably right, but actually I don't really hear who's doing it. People have a right to campaign. People have a right to advocate a certain view. I would rather beat them on the facts.
No, I want to stop you again, Minister. Collectively, school boards don't. School boards have a right or an obligation to educate kids and run schools that educate kids best, not to be political activists.
But that's not what they're doing. They are simply saying that within the law, this is how they'd like to run their schools. Now, they've got a right to do it. I'm in favour of free speech. I'm in favour of people choosing how they behave. I just make the point that the government has done something else they may have missed, and it's sad it's been missed in all of this. The ACT Party campaigned and won a policy where academic attainment becomes the paramount objective of school boards in New Zealand. That was changed by Labor in 2020. We have changed it back, and so these school boards can write as many letters and they can talk about the treaty in Te Ao Māori and they can teach in Te Reo if they want to. It's a free society and we have self-governing schools run by their communities. I have no problem with them doing that, so long as they follow the law, which requires them to put academic attainment front and centre. Meanwhile, I'm happy to have the debate with them that ultimately New Zealand is a culture with several waves of settlers. It includes Māori, it includes Europeans, it more recently includes Asians, it includes people who will get off the plane at Auckland Airport this morning and start their journey as Kiwis. We all have an equal right to practice our culture and live our lives as we see fit, so long as we're not harming others. And that's the other change that we've made. We got rid of the treaty obligations, but the school boards are obliged to reflect the cultural diversity of New Zealand. That means everyone has a place here. Nobody is second tier because of when their ancestors arrived here.
All right. Well, you put your stake in your ground there. Talking of people who get off the plane in New Zealand, are you aware of a case reported by Radio New Zealand yesterday of a 50-year-old man and a 44-year-old woman, both convicted of making false claims and fraudulent claims about who they are to immigration officials to get visas and to get residence in New Zealand. He's got 2 years inside and she's got 9 months home detention. A number of my listeners in our audience say, why aren't they friggin' deported?
Look, I don't know why the authorities have made the decision they've made in that case. And as we've learnt many times over the years, it's not a good idea for politicians to start trying to interfere in individual prosecution or judicial decisions. But on balance, to me, it sounds like if you're here and you're not supposed to be here, rather than putting a cost on the New Zealand taxpayer, you should be sent back to where you've come from. That's what generally happens. If it hasn't happened in this case, there may be some reason for that, but I'll have to tell you, I don't know what that reason is offhand.
Look, the other thing is the imported EV scheme, which the government tinkered some more with yesterday because of changes in the EV market, because the settings were wrong, because it was going to cost New Zealand consumers more to buy second-hand cars. I came away yesterday from the post-cabinet media briefing and suddenly sat there and thought, why are we even doing this? What good can come of a government with a scheme like this that has never seemed to have worked properly and is based indeed on the idea of stopping anthropomorphic climate change, which seems to be a theory that is rapidly losing any credibility around the world? You guys would get rid of this scheme?
Well, the ACT Party campaigned just to dump it. Because if we park the arguments about climate change for a moment and say the government's goal is to reduce emissions, then the first thing that becomes obvious is the emissions trading scheme already puts a cap on emissions. If the government then persuades some people to buy low emission vehicles, all that does is free up carbon credits under the same cap to be used some other way. So that is the case for getting rid of it. Obviously, we're in a coalition government. We didn't get our partners to agree to dump it, so we support the policy that the government collectively has. The improvements that are being made will reduce the cost and impact of the scheme on vehicle importers and therefore the people buying the cars. It also just make the point that because we didn't dump it a long time ago, the way it works is if you import a good car, then you get a credit, and if you import a bad car, then you pay a fee. There's a lot of importers who have been importing the good cars who have credits built up. So if you just scrap the scheme, you'd be wiping all their credits. And I've got to say,
because why it was a dumb scheme in the first place.
Well, yep, I get it's one of the reasons I campaigned against it. But now we're in government, we're in a coalition, and we've got the positions we got. And what Chris Bishop has just done dramatically improves the scheme on where we were before. It also creates the opportunity to work out
how to wind it down, how to get rid of it.
Yep, the smart thing is never to start policies like this, but once you have them, we actually believe that businesses need continuity. They need an end to flip-flopping. So if you come in and you just cancel a scheme like this, just like that, then of course it's harder. Obviously, if we'd started earlier winding it down, we wouldn't be here now. But hey, it's the joys of MMP.
Do you feel the same about the emissions trading scheme when it all comes down to it?
I think having the emissions trading scheme, if you want New Zealand to have some sort of climate policy, then it is the least bad policy because it gives people choices, and it means if you do something innovative that reduces emissions, you pay less and so on. So look, it's the least bad scheme.
Well, you prefaced that with if you're going to have some sort of climate policy. And that's a question maybe this country should be asking itself at the next election.
Well, I've said that we should pull out of Paris, but it depends on what the rest of the world does. Now, increasingly, as you say, the rest of the world is less committed, and we're just shooting ourselves in both feet, making ourselves poorer and driving production offshore into countries where they're actually less efficient than us and emit more. That's why the changes that we got through on the methane are so important. Farmers can basically keep farming as planned under the changes that we campaigned on and won. On the other hand, look, we're in a parliament where Labour, the Greens, New Zealand First, National. They all voted for the Zero Carbon Act. I was the only one to vote against it. And as a result, we're pushing it uphill with our various partners. But in our view, it should be gone.
I thank you very much indeed for your time this morning and covering so much ground with us, David. Good talking to you.
Pleasure.
David Seymour there, the leader of the ACT Party. See, there's the question, folks. When you say, why are we doing that? Why is the government doing that, and is it working? And if you really ask that question all the time, 9 times out of 10, you're going to say the government should get out of that. The government's got no business being there. We, individuals, make the best decisions about how to live their lives because they're the people living their lives, not bureaucrats. And basically, look, I think he's trying to just flat bat the school thing. It's just such a crock, and the media, of course, indulge in it.